Orientation is the process of using sensory information to establish and maintain one's position in the environment. Mobility is the process of moving safely, efficiently, and gracefully within one's environment. Within the inclusive school setting, orientation and mobility is an important and integral part of the disability specific core curriculum in the comprehensive delivery of services to children with visual impairment. The components of an orientation and mobility curriculum include sensory, concept and motor development, that is fine and gross motor skills, environmental and community awareness, formal orientation and mobility skills, safety issues, the use of community resources, the use of assistive technology, and purposeful and self-initiated movement. Other orientation mobility skills include basic skills, indoor travel or cane skills, residential travel, light business travel or use of public transportations, metropolitan or urban travel and special areas or circumstances. Other components are interaction into community with the preferences of orientation and mobility skills, thereby acquiring independent living skills and employment skills. Independent living skills such as shopping for groceries and clothing, banking, mailing packages, eating at a restaurant or traveling on a subway to a job site. Employment skills include community instruction, where students receive orientation and mobility training of school campuses, is also a crucial component of the orientation and mobility curriculum. Community instruction may focus on providing the opportunity to interact with non-disabled and disabled peers, learning how and becoming proficient at integrating orientation and mobility skills into a daily living activities, social skills and employment skills. For an example, transportations, independent travel in the workplaces. Improving self-esteem and self-efficacy and engaging in community recreational activities are some advantages of community-based instructions. Additionally, community instructions assists with the transition of students from school to adulthood. Students with visual impairment and additional disabilities have difficulty generalizing skills in a variety of environments. Therefore, community instruction focusing on partial participation and adaptation or modifications encourages community access. Over the year, the role of special educator has expanded. Today, orientation and mobility specialist assumes many roles, such as instructor and consultant. A special educator provides direct instruction in concept development, environmental and community awareness, and motor development. Additionally, the special educator is responsible for more advanced orientation and mobility skills training, such as cane instruction and street crossing. As a consultant, and a special educator may release some basic instructional duties. For an example, monitor route travel. To a teacher, parent or a paraprofessional who interacts with the student on a daily basis. A special educator has a significant role in the assessment of students. They are responsible for developing and conducting an orientation mobility assessment for all children with a visual impairment to determine the nature and extent of services needed. These assessments of students are conducted in partnership with an assessment team. When assessing students, the special educator uses instruments and checklists, observations of students in natural context and various environments student portfolios, and interviews with the students and their caregivers. When orientation and mobility services are needed, the individualized educational program team makes recommendations which includes instructional goals and objectives, the amount of time allocated for instructions, and the location of instructions. The special educator is responsible for designing and implementing ongoing in-service education activities in the area of orientation and mobility for teachers, other professionals, paraprofessionals, administrators, parents, and individuals with visual impairments. In-service activities should provide information about the role of the special educator and goal of the orientation mobility program. Orientation and mobility in service activities should also focus on the roles of all appropriate school personnel in the development and reinforcement of concept development, sensory skills training, motor development, and formal orientation and mobility skills. To be effective, orientation and mobility training should be infused into school curricula and activities, supported and reinforced by all individuals connected with the student. Orientation and mobility instruction will have very little impact on children with visual impairments if parents or caregivers and family members are not involved in the process. It is also the responsibility of the special educator to provide training to students with visual impairment and their parents. In addition to working cooperatively with the family members in developing realistic goals, the special educator must develop specific activities that parents and family members can implement in the home setting for continuity of instruction to occur. Orientation and mobility activities should be designed so that parents and other family members can carry them out through daily living activities and recreational activities. The special educator serves as a member of multidisciplinary team in developing and implementing individualized education programs for children with visual impairments. The special educator also provides professional information about alternative systems of independent travel such as adaptive mobility devices, dog guides, and electronic travel devices. Many times, orientation and mobility instruction occurs in the community. Frequently, the special educator has the opportunity to educate the general public regarding the capabilities of persons with visual impairments. Establishing community relationship through orientation and mobility instruction may dispel the many misconceptions that the general public often has about blindness and people with visual impairment. In addition to train in orientation and mobility skills, certain assessments needed too. Conduct vision related and evaluation, orientation and mobility assessment, including all initial assessment and re-evaluations, provide written report that document assessment outcomes and identify needs, set goals and objectives, and recommend the amount and level of services needed for students to achieve individualized educational program goals. Orientation and mobility assessments are conducted for students of all ages and ability levels, including students who are not yet walking, those in wheelchairs, and those who may never travel unassisted. The special educator will customize the evaluation to the student's age, ability level, and amount of remaining or usual vision. Prior to conducting the evaluation, the special educator will want to review the student's medical information, vision report as well as clinical low vision evaluation is available. These reports will provide necessary information about the student vision, visual skills, and low vision devices that have been prescribed. They will also need any audiological information that is available. A functional vision assessment is initially conducted to determine the need for services from a teacher of students with visual impairment. It is also conducted to determine appropriate goals and levels of support needed. The special teacher continually assesses how a student is using their vision through observation in a student's learning environment as well as through direct instruction. The teacher of children with visual impairment will use the information the classroom teacher provides as well as observations and direct interaction to continually monitor the student's progress and use of vision and to ensure the student's learning environment is appropriate. Assess applicable area of expanded core curriculum. Compensatory skills, orientation and mobility skills, social interaction skills, independent living skills and personal management, recreation and leisure skills, career and vocational education skills, assistive technology skills, visual efficiency skills, self-determination skills. Provide vision-related instruction and service required to meet the individualized educational needs of students in all school and other appropriate environments. Prepare sequential and meaningful instruction geared to the students' assessed needs as determined by the IEP team with goals and objectives that include functioning and motivation all levels. This instruction should be reflected in lesson plans appropriate. For students who read Braille, teach students Braille. Yearly literacy or a pre-Braille skills, literacy code, Nimit code. Teach students low vision and visual efficiency skills. Provide instruction in the development and maintenance of appropriate expanded core curriculum, that is ECC. Work with the students to facilitate conversations with their peers to build social skills and relationships. Through self-advocacy instructions, assist students in gaining knowledge, skills and confidence to communicate the functional implications of their vision impairment with peers and others. The special education teacher is responsible to provide orientation and mobility instruction based on individualized educational plan, that is IEP goals. Body image training helps children develop an understanding of their body. Efforts are made to orient each child to his body, to teach him the many ways the body is able to move and to help him coordinate his body movements. Besides, improving gained posture and training does much to improve directionality, laterality, balance and concentration, all of which are necessary for good mobility. Both gross and fine motor skills and focuses on developing and or enhancing a student's motor abilities. These skills involve large muscle movements such as walking or running, as well as the finer skills associated with hand and wrist movement. Sensory training helps children use their other senses to gather related information about the environment and how information can be used to aid his orientation and mobility. In any situation, the sensory perspectives may receive relevant and irrelevant cues, and the child has to learn to select and use the most meaningful information received. Using these techniques, the visually impaired child maintains a constant grip on the guide's arm while following the guide around obstacles as they travel through the environment. To maintain a grip that allows active participation in travel, the child must grasp the guide's arm so the thumb is placed on the outside with the remaining fingers gripping the inside of the arm. The child is half a step behind and to the side of the guide. allowing the guide to give cues about the environment through arm movements such as cues to indicate they are approaching stairs, doors or narrow spaces. The guide can move the guiding arm behind his or her back to indicate that they are approaching a narrow space and must walk single file. Other cues can be given to indicate stairs and doors. Cues need to fit each child's communication and learning styles. For an example, children who are blind will learn that the cue for stairs involves a pass from the guide when they have arrived at the base of the stairs. Children who are deafblind may find it helpful to enhance this cue by having the guide sign stairs and passes as they approach the staircase. Some children find it helpful to locate the stair railing before ascending or descending. A common adaptation for smaller students to the basic guided travel technique is to have the student grasp the guide's extended fingers, wrist or forearm rather than maintaining a grip above the elbow. Effective guided travel involves a partnership between guide and child with both participants actively involved. Protective techniques allow students to travel independently yet safely in familiar places, enabling them to locate objects while protecting their bodies. Protection skills are primarily used in familiar indoor environments and are designed to provide information about the environment during travel. Upper hand and forearm protection skills, in which the arm is bent and held across the body at shoulder height parallel to the floor with the palm facing outward and the fingertips extending beyond the opposite shoulder, will provide protection from objects the students may contact a head and chest level. Lower body protections with the arm extended down and held diagonally across the body provides protections from obstructions at waist to upper leg level. These two techniques are sometimes used together, but they can be fatiguing. Typically, neither technique is used continually but rather is employed as needed. For example, an individual may use trailing skills while walking down a familiar hallway and use the forearm protections techniques only near the end of the hall because he knows that there is a door that is often left open and he wants to locate it without injury. Enable the student to use sensory information to move purposefully in the environment. Orientation skills instruction is designed to teach the student to use environmental cues, for an example, sounds, smells, and visual or tactile stimuli. Knowing where one is in relationship to other people, places, and important things is essential to purposeful movement. Keeping track of those relationships while moving is a dynamic cognitive process. Spatial concepts relate to the location or position of stationary and moving elements in the environment. Understanding and managing the many spatial concepts inherent in general learning and specific to travel require a coordinated approach to assuring the greatest level of mastery possible. A map unit planned by special educator could coincide with the basic geography and can teach to map reading with the student to identify landmarks in a familiar residential area in order to construct his or her own mental map. This area of instruction stresses the development of sensory motor skills and spatial environmental concepts for safe travel techniques within the school. These skills and concepts when related to a philosophy of independence and mastered by the child, will help him develop a high degree of independence and will add to his physical and mental development. This area of instruction helps the child develop a mental image of the outdoor environment, including street configurations and significant landmarks. Additionally, the student must develop confidence in himself as a capable person and proficiency in the long cane method. This area of instruction focuses on the application of the long cane methods to leave the schools or home and travel to given destination as in the neighborhood. In real and actual situation, the child experiences some of the unpleasant aspects of independent travel, encountering stray animals, getting lost or disoriented, stumbling on broken or uneven sidewalls, bumping into obstacles due to inadequate cane techniques, walking on muddy terrain and being out in inclement weather. He may also derive pleasure from meeting people and gaining new friends. As the student benefits from his mobility experiences, he learns to stay composed under most of the stressful situation which sometimes accompany independent travel and assumes greater responsibility for his own safety. He learns to evaluate his own travel skills and limitation, and most importantly, the student develops positive or negative attitudes regarding his independence or lack of it. Guidance and support to the student during the crucial period of mobility instruction is pertinent. Small business areas with a block after block of stores and shops offer the student opportunities for continued growth and development. Attention is focused on getting to a shop or store safely and efficiently and making purchases and securing information about the various businesses and offices. This area of instruction also include the use of public transportations. Efforts are always made to teach the child information and skills which are relevant to him and his personal goals. All children with total blindness or low vision, the children with additional disabilities including deaf blindness need an orientation mobility assessment conducted by special educator to determine their eligibility for orientation and mobility services. Students typically qualify for orientation and mobility services when their visual disorder interferes with their ability to learn body, spatial and environmental concepts, to use orientation and mobility tools, cane adaptive mobility devices, electronic travel devices, GPS and low vision devices, that is telescope, magnifiers, use of other senses for orientation and travel, and how to move safely and or remain oriented at home, in school or the community. For those students who are eligible orientation and mobility services, the special educator should oversee the provisions of instructions and or provide direct instruction. The goal of orientation and mobility services is for students with visual impairment to become safe and independent travelers, and orientation mobility is a necessary life skill for everyone. Effective orientation and mobility skills can assist students in the pursuance of their life goals, improvement in their quality of life and successful integration into society. Thank you.